What up, media heads? Today I wanted to show you guys what our take is on the Sonos Amp versus the Bluesound Edge, what customer is each one right for, and then also the differences between them. If you already have Sonos, stick with Sonos unless you want to replace your old stuff. You do not want to have one room of Sonos and one room of Bluesound. It just sort of defeats the purpose of a smart home. Same with Bluesound. If you already have Bluesound speakers, stick with Bluesound. Both of these companies, they work very hard on their app. They try to make the distributed audio in your home very, very easy. And in almost every scenario, as long as these are set up correctly, they are rock solid. Let's talk about power. These are amplifiers. They're meant for in-wall, in-ceiling, bookshelf speakers, floor-standing speakers. The Sonos Amp is rated at 125 watts per channel. It can power pretty much every speaker you can think of. That is rated at 0.1% THD, that's total harmonic distortion. That means if you turn this up as loud as it can go, with your ear right next to the speaker, you can hear a buzz. That's not good, it's not bad. It is bad in the audiophile world. It's acceptable for most people. The Powernode Edge seems to have a lot less power. It's quoted at 40 watts per channel. That is not entirely true though. It's rated for instantaneous power up to 80 watts, which puts it a lot more in line with the Sonos Amp. Instantaneous power is measured a little bit differently than continuous power. If we're talking about a more similar measurement of power, these are closer to 80 watts, around 125 watts. Now, I'm not an electrical engineer. I cannot guarantee that is 100% the case, but I know that NAD and Bluesound measure their amps on a much higher level than Sonos. If I turn this up max on speakers, nothing playing, I will not hear a buzz at all. That's because this one's distortion is a lot lower than the Sonos's. Does that necessarily translate to better performance? Depends on the situation. Low volume listening, absolutely. High volume listening, usually, but that also gets into the nitty-gritty and power limitations of this unit. I would put the Bluesound Powernode Edge with anything from bookshelf speakers, in-ceiling speakers, in-wall speakers. I don't believe that most people will ever use a full 40 watts. Most of the time, listening levels are between 8 and 15 watts. The thing is with power is it's not linear. So you double the power, you effectively increase the volume by 3 decibels. This unit being 3 times the volume, we're probably only looking at about 5 decibels louder. I've never maxed out the volume on either of these units, not in any scenario. Not even in big giant living rooms. So frankly, it's not something I would worry about. 40 watts doesn't seem like enough, but I'll be honest, these 40 watts are strong. They do not pull their punches. I tried these on Martin Logan F100 bookshelves, so they're pretty big high-end bookshelves, and I was blown away. I would choose this over the Sonos Amp any day. A few things that I like about the Powernode Edge is it has analog and digital optical in. It has ARC in as well. It also has a subwoofer out, which is nice. Sonos Amp, we're talking almost identical. It has HDMI ARC. It has digital coax input. It has analog input, but not analog output. It has a subwoofer out, albeit keep in mind that the subwoofer out does not always work as it should. I have had issues with incorporating other brands, but I think that more has to do with Sonos than anything else. I would say between the two, inputs and outputs are almost identical. The only advantage of this is that you have a digital optical input. Depending on how old your TV, that could be exactly what you need. Most TVs use HDMI ARC. You can order a optical to HDMI ARC adapter, which can be used with this. The main thing is this does have IR learning, meaning if I have an older TV or if I specifically don't want to use HDMI ARC and I want to use optical, I can actually teach it the remote that I'm using. A little bit more install flexibility, a little bit better sound, less volume. As far as the apps, that's where it becomes personal preference. I like the Bluesound app on Android, so there's some issues with that. Sonos no longer supports devices off of Android phones. If I download a file onto my phone, I can't play it on my system. The added advantage of Bluesound is you're not limited to one amplifier. It no longer pigeonholes you into a certain speaker set. You can buy any speaker you want, have the exact same distributed audio system throughout. It is not limiting in any way, shape, or form. Sonos works with others well. It is a very good app, and especially for individuals who just want to go to one place, because they have a search that searches all attached streaming services. The Bluesound does not. Bluesound, you have to go to Amazon or you have to go to Tidal and search. And you have to search from that menu, which for someone like me who only uses Amazon Music or Tidal, that's not a big deal. With someone who uses Pandora, someone who uses Spotify, someone who uses Apple Music, someone who uses iTunes, someone who uses all these different services, Sonos is probably more up your river because of that. Obviously, I have a preference as a musician. I'm a big fan of Bluesound and how they're approaching it. I think that they have the better infrastructure, the better amps. They're not just buying off-the-shelf amplifiers. They're like Sonos. They almost certainly use ICE Class D amplifiers, which explains 125 watts at 0.1% THD. Bluesound, they use direct digital, which is part of Hypex. It's definitely going to be a higher grade of digital amplification. Surprisingly, these units are considerably heavier than the Sonos amps as well. Even though it supposedly has 80 watts less, weighs about a pound more. In the end, my opinion, the Sonos amp is no slouch. It is a good amplifier. It is something that for distributed audio I will use over and over and over again because it just works. But for anyone who is critical of audio, Bluesound is the way to go. Especially whenever you consider that this is $50 less than the Sonos Amp. Alright, MediaHeads, that's all for today. You guys have a good one. See you next time.